Ladies and gentlemen, the three of the members of Walker Independence.
Hello, hello.
First off, howdy, good morning. Thank you for coming out here on a Saturday morning. I'm sure half of y'all are hungover.
As well you should be.
As you should be. I wish they were as well.
On margaritas and queso.
Yeah, all the queso. This is my second time at ATX TV Festival. The last time I was here was for a show that did 154 episodes in a Netflix revival. So to be here for a pilot is incredible, and to have such interest in what's going on is so awesome and humbling, and just excited to be here. So I don't know if anybody here works with scriptwriters or writers in general, but I made the critical, fatal error of asking Seamus Fahey, our intrepid creator of Independence. So I asked him last night, because he couldn't make it. He sends his love and extreme gratitude, but with everything going on in the planet, he had to stay on the West Coast. Anyways, I made the mistake of asking him last night, like, hey, anything you want me to touch on? And he sent me 17 legal pads. He is verbose, and I've been saying his words for a couple of years now, and so I want to start really quickly with something that I'm not kidding.
The Transcontinental Railroad.
As y'all well know, yeah, they're gonna have 400-page episodes. Just teasing.
Can't wait. Bring it on.
Yeah, really quickly from Seamus. Let me see if I can still get his words correct. He wanted y'all to know what inspired the idea of an origin story for Walker. So from him, the real answer, if it helps inform anything, is that he's always wanted to do a Western. The first TV spec script he ever wrote was a Western. And when he wrote for Walker, he created and then subsequently killed a character named Hoyt Rawlins, played by Matt Barr. And everyone was mad at him, me included. So he talked to Anna Fricke, who runs Walker, and he talked about doing a spin-off, a prequel. And this was January of 2021 that we were having these discussions. Right around the time, we were all watching the rough cut of the Walker episode where Hoyt Rawlins died. And so he kind of realized that was part of the way in. Seeing the first generation of not just the Walkers, but some other characters who were part of the Walker series, the Walker universe, as we like to call it. And that was kind of the spark that lit the fuse. That and a general interest about the first generation of Walkers. We always heard they were fifth generation. So his idea was, who was the first generation? And we all soon discovered that I was also a lover of Westerns and loved history, and I got behind it all the way, right away, and started pushing him to subvert expectations of who that first generation of Walkers were. No spoilers. A quick family tree. Abby, Cat Mac, as I like to call her. In every sense, she's the first generation Walker to live in Texas. Of course, her story and the Walkers themselves is much more complex than we could ever imagine, but to do a complete family tree might contain spoilers. But let's get to, that having been said, let's go ahead and talk to the wonderful Cat Mac herself.
I like that.
Hello, hello.
And I want to just check and see want to ask what drew you to the role, what excited you? Was there anything, had you wanted to do a Western, or was it more the story of a strong character? What was your introduction to Walker Independence?
Sort of all of the above. I remember, I've whenever asked the question, what's your dream role? What would you like to do next? Having lived in the world of supernatural things and superheroes for a very long time.
I hear you.
Yeah, I know. I always said a period piece. I said, put me in a corset and a hoop skirt and I'm a happy girl. Well, manifestation works, I guess. But also, in reading the script, I realized very quickly that it wasn't your traditional Western. You know, it's a Western for a new generation. What Larry, Teng, our director, and Seamus, our writer, are doing so brilliantly is they're subverting the whole idea of what a Western is. And that goes all the way to Abby as a character. You know, she is a woman in the 1870s. She's a woman from Boston, of education and society, and yet in the first 15 minutes of the show, her entire life changes, and everything she knows and loves is ripped away from her. And she's presented with an opportunity to create a life anew, and to create a life for herself, and to have more agency than pretty much any woman we've seen in this time period. And is lucky enough to meet some folks along the way who recognize that and foster that, and sort of allow her that chance to start anew and choose her own life.
Amazing. To give Maddie B the next opportunity, just because you're the second closest. Here you go. How does it feel to be such a handsome, talented, intelligent...
Did you give these notes, Matt?
I can't read
I might have slipped that one in there.
Yeah, I can't read your handwriting. Will you tell me what the next words are? Just kidding. So, Matt, Hoyt Rawlins obviously finds himself kind of on both sides of the coin. Right. He's an outlaw who clearly has an empathy to Abby, cares about the loss that she's experienced, cares about what she's going through as an individual as well. How does that feel for you? Is there something that you kind of lean towards more, the outlaw part of it, or the empathetic, caring, loving, but with an edge part of it?
I'm always drawn to those characters, even like as an audience, as a fan. Like I love those characters in movies and TV where, you know, they can make really poor decisions, but there's this nobility that is in them, and you sort of see them searching for their moral compass, and it's endearing, and you sort of root for that. And so I always sort of felt for like this underdog in Hoyt, that like he wants to do the right thing. And when he meets Abby and these characters, even like Cordell, I don't know who the OG Hoyt is, the great-great-great-grandfather or the one in your show, but
that's a multiverse question we don't want to answer right now.
But like Cordell would bring up the best in him. So, but especially, you know, in the Wild West, I feel like nice guys didn't survive there. You know, you had to be a little bit dangerous to make it out there. So I like that about this, you know, this version of Hoyt, that he's a little bit dangerous.
I love it. Going down the row a little bit to Justin. Thank you. So I might refer to them sometimes as Cat Mac, Maddie B, or Double JC, because that's how I have them saved in my phone. Legit. So Double JC. You, again, how does it feel to be more handsome than Matt? I'm having a tough time reading your handwriting as well. I just got
Thanks for the effort.
So what drew you to the role? You have Native ancestry yourself. Have you had the chance to portray a character and to give voice to?
Yeah, I have. Thank you for the question. I'm cutting you off because I'm like ready to go.
Please.
Yeah, I've had the opportunity, but the world didn't get the chance to see it because unfortunately that was a pilot that didn't make it, and so it's something I always wanted to do. To be honest, though, when I got the script, I'm always a little nervous playing a period piece, playing Native, because historically, those stories aren't really told in a great way. You know, my characters, it doesn't end well for them. When I grew up watching Westerns, I always wanted to be the cowboy. They had the most fun. They got the girls. They got to play.
I think you could get all the girls. Listen.
So I was a little.
Jen, stay back.
I was a little nervous. You know, I loved the script. I thought it was great. I love horses. I love riding. I love the world. I wanted to be a part of it, but I wanted to make sure that we were doing it right. And after meeting you guys, the team, you guys really solidified that idea in me that you are going to do it right. You know, and Seamus and Larry and the whole production team, they reassured me that we're going to listen. We're going to tell this story as honestly as possible. And that meant so much to me, and so I was on board, and then I get to meet these fantastic people and the rest of the cast who isn't here, and it's a dream, so I'm excited to just get back to it, keep doing it.
It really is, and I have to touch on what Justin said, is that this cast and this team is so, from day one, has just clicked, and we get along so well. And you know, life in the 1800s is hard, but we have a lot of fun doing it.
And how, on that note of cast camaraderie, how was it? I mean, you're all going out to Santa Fe, which is where this was filmed, and you're riding horses, you're in a town, you're wearing period clothing, you're doing fittings. Did anybody ride a horse before? Did anybody lasso?
Well, you know, making a movie or TV show is always like going to camp, but especially when you're doing it in like in an old town in the middle of, you know, outside of Santa Fe. When we actually got to go to cowboy camp, I remember telling my mom once, she's like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "I'm actually on the way to cowboy camp, Mom." It was pretty fun, but yeah, we got to ride together.
Yeah, we had a blast at cowboy camp.
And I heard somebody is pretty excited about archery lessons.
I am, but I think somebody else needs to teach me.
I got you. So. We'll go out. We'll shoot. It'll be fun.
Are you the true archer? You still got it?
Well, I know my form is really good. My aim is questionable because they never let us fire live arrows on set. But I can look great doing it. Yeah.
Fair enough.
That's what I need. I need that.
Yeah.
I've watched Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves 1,000 times, so.
That's also a prerequisite.
I can do it.
Yeah.
Absolute prerequisite. For Kat, you've been a part of the CW family for a while, and I know Matt as well. You know, I spent some time there myself. How does it feel going from playing Stephen Amell's daughter in the future to my grandmother in the past? Has that been a strange transition?
It is interesting. You know, mostly I want someone to explain that multiverse to me at some point, because there's some CW connection there where it all works out in some graphic. But no, it's always great to be a part of the CW family. You know, they've taken care of us for a lot of years, and it's nice to have, you know, a new story to tell and to still be a part of the world.
Great. And Matty B, you spent some time with Anna Fricke, obviously, in the past.
That's right.
How's it like working with her again? I mean, obviously, you worked there on Walker before this, but being with Anna, we know Seamus is running this, but how do you feel about Anna Fricke and her care and compassion and guidance?
I gotta tell you, she's a really good dancer.
Is she?
Yeah, especially with a little bit of tequila in her. So I wish she was here right now.
We need to see this.
Yeah,
it's fun doing. It's fun, you know. It's fun doing what you love with like people that you actually really love.
Yeah.
But and I thank her for the day. I remember I was in Italy filming, and she called and goes, she said this word like Hill Country Han Solo, and his name's Hoyt. I was like, yep. Like, I'll be there. Tell me when.
I mean, the alliteration alone is just brilliant.
But no, and you and I go way back, Jared. For those of you that don't know Jared personally, he's like one of the nicest humans out there, and I think when you've had as much success as Jared's had and been around this town a long time, that that's kind of rare. So that's why
thank you.
This is a good team you put together, pal.
Yeah. And Justin, you got a brand new family. I mean, we know you have a family.
I've been trying to get in for a while. So I'm finally here. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
We're the blessed ones here, man. We're the blessed ones to have you be a part of it. Have you asked your fellow castmates or crew members like what it's like to be a part of the CW family and?
I've just been soaking it in, you know. It's very apparent, you know. It's hard to miss when everybody is like you said. They're just great people to work with, and they make you feel safe to come and be vulnerable and do your job well. Yeah. And so yeah, I feel extremely lucky to be a part of the family.
Amazing. Well, I think we're all the blessed ones, so we'll take it. What else kind of initially attracted? So Walker Independence, they know this very well, but it's a story about a place, a time on the cusp of becoming something else. Great change going on. Ironically, very much like we find ourselves right now in the 2020s. So there's a way that we're all trying to explain discovery, how people discover their town, what a community is, what it can be, what independence will become, what the rest of your life will look like.
Well, and I think what you're saying is so true. There's a beautiful allegory to the show that we get to touch on a little bit in this pilot. But as Matt was saying, no one escapes unscathed in the West. No one is truly good and no one is truly evil. And we get to see that with these characters. And it's a bit like our world today. You either have to cooperate and be a part of the community, or you make friends or you make enemies in the West. And it becomes very apparent very quickly who is on what side, or is it? And that's something we get to discover throughout the show.
I don't know if this is okay to say, but there's something kind of. Justin's like, oh no, here it goes.
I can't be responsible for this. Disclaimer alert.
There's something kind of like wickedly romantic about the Wild West and like Texas justice, right? That I think in our primitive, like innate beings, it's like, not the eye for the eye thing, but like, you steal my cow, I'm gonna steal your cow. And I think after
accountability
like,
of some sort.
Life is so political now, and so like, especially after the pandemic, you know, the West was simplified. You know, it felt more black and white. Like human nature is the same. We fight and die for the same things: what we love, our family, our home, our land, our honor. And I think when the Western is just like a very maybe simplified sandbox of that, and that's why it's like. It's fun and it's cool that way.
It's a bit of a blank slate. I mean, we find, you know, a lot of Westerns classically, as I'm sure you all know, have generally revolved around a strong male lead, and obviously with Independence, we have our strong female lead in a time where they weren't often allowed to be strong, and so she's finding herself and how strong she can be and how she can be strong. We have our outlaw who's actually a nice guy, and maybe he's an outlaw because he just found himself on the wrong side of the situation. And we obviously have Callion, who is kind of torn between two worlds. He has his own Apache tribe and his homeland, but he's scouted for Gus, our deputy. And that's another thing about Independence. We did a lot of historical research. There is a town in Texas called Independence. This is not that town. This is kind of a composite of Waterloo, which became Austin, Independence, and there were places we found where 30% of the cowboys were African American, had black skin, and so we have Gus, our deputy, and Callion finds himself between his tribe and what we now call the West in modern times. Has that been fun to explore? JJC, are there parts of that you want to delve into? Do you want to go more?
Yeah, it's not too unlike the world I live in now. I'm mixed, so I kind of live in two worlds as well. And just like in the show, you kind of find allies, I guess, in situations that maybe you're not fully comfortable in, but doesn't mean you're opposed to them or against them, and you're interested, but you got to be cautious, you got to be wary, and that's where Callion finds himself. But Augustus is a great ally for him, and he's kind of like his eyes into the town, and that relationship will grow, and we'll be able to see more of that as we get going. But yeah, it is very interesting to me, because the West, for me, as exciting, you guys all described it very well, I have a little bit of a different perspective because of my ancestry, because of our past. So it's exciting for me to be able to tell that side of the story as well, because it was a dangerous place, and there was a lot of change happening, and you can accept change, and you just got to make sure you're doing it in a way that you're protecting your people, your tribe, and that's one of the reasons why I see her, and I'm drawn to her, is because there's something I recognize in her that I could identify with. And that's what the world is, right? We identify with people, and that's how we compete, grow companions and friendships, and so it is very much one-to-one with the world in certain ways, even though it's set 100 years ago.
Well, and that's so true of all the characters, too. Somebody asked me the other day what my favorite scene in the pilot was, and I can never pick. But one of my favorites is that opening where Abby's walking through the town and meets everyone, coming from Callion, going into the town, meeting Kate, meeting Hoyt, and all the characters, because each relationship has such a unique element to it, and all of these characters bring out other colors in each other. And it's such a fascinating cast to get to explore, and I'm just excited. There's so many cards we can play.
Like, you know, everyone's trying to invent themselves, especially in a new town. You know, when the railroad came and those little towns, when it splintered and those towns popped up, it's like that's the idea of the West. The dream was like start anew, and who are you going to be? You know, you could build whatever you wanted in America, right? Yeah.
And you're right. You know, you guys did your research, and like you said, a number of these people were black, or you know, Chinese American, and you have all this stuff. So these characters that you're seeing on screen are a really good representation of what it was like, and I'm really excited to expand on these characters where maybe in the past we wouldn't have expanded on these characters.
Yeah. It was a melting pot, and not just because literally people were coming from all over and converging, but people were deciding not who they were, but who they're going to be. Today, tomorrow, and I think that's also very much in line with what we find ourselves in today. There's another thing I wanted to read that Seamus wrote. I can't read all of it, unless, what are y'all doing tomorrow?
I'm available, let's go.
If anybody has a flight before Tuesday, I can read through all of it with you. But there's something that I really want to touch on that Kat and the gang kind of touched on. He said, we want to tell a Western that hasn't been told before. We all wanted to give voice to characters who don't normally have a voice in traditional Westerns, to balance what we know and love about Westerns, like Maddie B touched on, with other points of view, a remix, like Kat Mack and Double JC touched on. So whether it's Abby, a newcomer from Boston, Hoyt, a gunslinger and grifter looking for himself, Callion, an Apache scout with a mixed background, Kai, a Chinese laborer with a complex past, Kate Carver, a burlesque dancer with her own secrets, or Gus, the black deputy in town, one thing these characters all have in common is that they're trying to escape what they perceive as troubled pasts. They're trying to reinvent themselves out here, and they're trying to figure out together what makes a community and what the town of Independence could be and should be, much like we find ourselves now. Well, if y'all want to say something, I might go to audience questions. Oh, you know what? I do want to ask one more thing before we get to the audience, because I was intrigued by this as well.
And I have one for you when you're done with that, Jared, too.
Yeah. This is on behalf of Seamus to y'all. How much do you want to know about your character in advance of filming the series? To him, it's weird that we're doing a panel about a show that's yet to be fully written, but that's awesome because we'll have.
This is how he asks us up here. He could have texted me.
I know he could have called.
I've been trying to get a hold of him for a while.
Seamus?
He's putting it on my shoulders. Yeah.
Hoyt's a dad?
Seamus?
You know, I always operate from the perspective of I love as much information as I can get, and then I'll set what I need to aside, you know, suspension of disbelief. But I always get fascinated by the world building of it and the storytelling of it. And, you know, even if I have a few spoilers along the way, I'll keep them to myself if need be.
I like experiencing it like the audience. So I don't want to know. I want to read the script just like when you watch it the first time. You know, so I'm experiencing it in real time, and then it kind of informs what I do. But unless I need to know something like, I'm really your dad.
Well, that's another multiverse.
What?
Don't hold it. You know, we never know what we're gonna get. I like to know as much background as possible. I'm gonna make it up for myself anyway. I'm gonna discover all that. So if he has things, then I always love hearing. But as it goes, you know, I'm excited to see where they want to go. I like to be kind of taken along for the ride.
Great. So send Kat and Justin the scripts. Don't tell Matt. The final question from Seamus. Who is your favorite executive producer and why is it Jared? Kidding. But
hey, Jared, speaking of that, like, what is it like all these years, you know, in front of the camera? Like, what's it been like for you to produce something and shape it and really build it? You started the Walkerverse, you know, with Walker. So what's it been like for you? Yeah, there we go.
Thank you. Well, thank you guys.
That show's doing all right.
It's been amazing to see. I mean, I remember the meetings we had via Zoom, because the world we find ourselves in, with Kat. And with Matt, we already knew, and so we had meetings via Zoom, but we already knew him from Walker. And with Justin. And I remember something Justin said, when the video we got where you were talking, it was really powerful, and it informs the storytelling, because you were saying how you didn't speak your tribe's language in real life because that language was brutally kind of ripped away. And so that background about who you are as a person and how we can hopefully try and give voice back to people who have become voiceless in a sense. And so seeing that side and being able to work with, and I mean, I still read Seamus's lines for a living, and Anna and our gang is incredible, Aaron and everybody. But to be able to be on this side and see magic happen, and Larry Teng, who did a friggin' awesome job.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
In 9 days, no less.
Yeah, so backstory, maybe a little boring, but pilots often are, so an episode of TV show, usually an hour-long episode, usually takes 8 days to film. I think for the Walker pilot that I was on, we had 12 days. For Supernatural, we had 16 days. I think Gilmore Girls had like 10 days. We had 9 days to shoot this, and it's a Western, a period piece where people have to have their characters down pat, and so that's why we went to the Dream Team. You know, that's why we went to people who just had it already and didn't have to go like, well, how do I say this? Like, no, y'all all came in with a clearly defined character and interpretation and something more powerful to tell. That you can't teach somebody to care about something on a deeper level. You can teach them how to deliver a line, you can coach them how to hit their marks, but you can't have somebody care about making sure that a strong woman who's sure-footed and moving forward is important, or how the classic values of, you know, you try and do what's right or you might have to pay for it because the West is brutal, or giving voice back to human beings who had their voice taken away. You can't put that into somebody. So you all came in with something. And so it was just a pleasure to watch, and I can't wait to watch 100-something, 200-something more episodes, 300-something more episodes.
Well, and to second that, it's really inspiring for us having, you know, being given these rich characters, but having a team that really cares about it and is passionate about it already and gives us the freedom to be creative, but also the support of the research and the world building and everything that's already established. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
And just tell Texas stories.
I mean, yeah.
There you go.
Let's do that.
yeah. A couple of Texans in here. All right, well, before we keep jabbering, did anybody want to, I see a hand over there.
We got hands.
Let there be light.
Okay, so is this a script choice or a personal choice you made for Boston, no accent?
So it was a choice of the whole creative team, and I think, I'm not 100% sure, but with the information I had, the Boston accent as we know it didn't quite exist yet. So we didn't want to have something that was too modern for Abigail, but also, I'm from Kansas City. I have a little bit of a southern accent myself at times. It was really hard with all of these guys to not fall into that. But, you know, we found our way with it, and it's, you know, we want to pay homage to that world of education and kind of properness of the East, but pretty sure I think Abby's gonna devolve into what all these ruffians are experiencing.
Yeah, amen. Right there.
Hi guys, thank you for being here. Really, this is fun. For each of you and then also for Jared, since most of the scripts sounds like hasn't kind of been fleshed out, if you kind of moonshot, you could act anything or experience anything in these characters, what would you want to do for each of your characters? What would you want to do?
Great, I'll let them start.
Wrestle. No, I want to do the fun. Like I said, I want to do the stuff that cowboys got to do. You know, shoot some bows and jump on trains and rescue people, but I also want to get real with it. You know, I want to be able to confront some things that maybe people aren't used to seeing or hearing. So, yeah, I'm really excited because, like I said, we got great writers and they're gonna make it happen.
Mine's gonna sound so much less profound than that, but I remember when Seamus wrote it, I was like, please, can I rob a train? And he was like, man, I can't promise you that. I was like, please, just let me at least get on top of a train while it's being robbed. And, you know, and like, you run, he's like, all right, we'll see. We need to ask CW for like $100 million. We can do that.
We'll get it in there. We'll get it in there. I think, you know, one of my favorite things about Abby is that she's not afraid to push buttons, and she's not afraid to push the boundaries of what people expect of her and of society. And, you know, we see that with these two and the rest of the characters, and I'm excited to see what else she tries to change.
Yeah, mine's gonna sound much less profound. I just want more shirtless Matt Barr and shirtless Justin Johnson Cortez.
Yes, please.
No, but I kind of feel like you're gonna be shirtless a lot. I don't want to be next to you.
I'm not
You
gonna
just
lie.
said you wanted to get rid of the jacket.
The wardrobe, that jacket's warm in Santa Fe in the summer, so I'm pulling for different reasons. I want that to come off as well.
He wants to go cowboy. We're gonna make him go commando. Just saying. No, but honestly, I think this kind of what we've been touching on is Independence is not just a town. We're approaching it like a town of people who are escaping pasts, but more importantly, it's a town of people who are discovering futures. You know, so it's more about everybody deciding who they are in this place where it's a blank slate, you know, an empty canvas. And so they'll try things here and there and figure out who they are. And we want to push the envelope as much as we can for television that children might watch. You know what I mean? So he might not go commando. But I'll still make my script notes and write, why isn't he? Just kidding. I'll stop with the commando comments. But we want to see people. We want to see the very real struggle. Even as we all sit here today, we have a basic idea of who we are, or at least who we think we are. But it's a brutal process to get there. You know, in this world we find ourselves in, which kind of sometimes seems similar to the world that we're creating in Walker Independence, where there are polarized factions. There are people who are judgmental. There are people who just don't understand separate cultures. And so the process to kind of find yourself or find ourselves can be difficult, and we want to get into those difficulties. And over the next 10 to 15 seasons, we're going to do that.
Hear, hear.
Yes.
I know it's still early days, but y'all see Texas history playing into it, or kind of more of a standalone Western outside of like Texas?
On our end, absolutely. From the creative side, we absolutely see Texas history, and there was a lot of research done. We often, I think one of the first things I did when we were developing it is I either sent Seamus a copy or told him to buy a copy of Empire of the Summer Moon by S.C. Gwynne, which is a wonderful, wonderful book that's set in a similar time. I think the primary story is more universal. So it's not just it's not a Ken Burns documentary, you know what I mean? And not that you're asking that, but it's more, if you're still living in Boston in 2022 or still living in Australia, it's a story about discovery more than it is just about Texas. But absolutely, that'll be built in.
And I think it was like 1872, the Texas Rangers were reinstated. Something like that, right? I mean, people here probably know the answer to that if I'm wrong. But
Well, we're 2 years away.
so, you know, it was like that lawless land all of a sudden started to get some log in, and then there you came years later.
Well, there was one person before me, but I'm taller. Yeah. So for those who couldn't hear, she was asking basically if from a creative side, if we have a 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, and so on plan. The short answer is yes. The long answer is it's flexible, it's pliable, and the best example I can kind of use is the last time I was at ATX TV Festival was for Gilmore Girls, and I was dean for like 60-something episodes. I was supposed to be in 2, you know? And they go like, oh, that's working. Or my amazing wife, who's back there, I think she was supposed to be in like 3 episodes. Now we have 3 kids, you know? So we certainly have, you know, we have a roadmap. We're driving from here to LA. If there's road closure or weather, we can stop before we intended to or take a detour. But we do have a plan. I can't say what or I'll get fired. Thank you.
You're
yes.
the boss, though.
Yeah. Yes. Mitch. Yes. Can we elaborate on Mitch?
Yeah, is he a walker?
Oh, he, as of now, again, referring to the earlier question, and he, I will say, Mitch, maybe more than anybody on the current Walker cast, wants to go to Santa Fe and be like, put me on a horse, give me a guitar, let me sing. Yeah, he's amazing. Yes.
Okay, just as a similar story,
I don't think we know yet.
It's a great question.
That's a really good question.
He was asking, just because it's an origin story, is Abigail pregnant? I know the answer. I cannot say the answer.
Oh, come on, Jared.
I can neither confirm. This is dangerous because I'm usually just off the cuff, like, yeah, what do you want to know? I pooped this morning, you know. But I have to use some discretion in my capacity as EP.
It's a real big skirt, so I don't think we're gonna know for a while.
Yes. She's not going commando. Let's put it that way. Yes, sir.
Just more of a comment. I just can't tell you how much I love the multicultural, multi-ethnic aspect, because when I did the Pottery Museum, I don't know if you've gone there for research, but it was great. And I found out about bass reefs and black cowboys and everything. It's like we were so diverse back then. And so many people say, oh, the Western's dead, it's over. But it's not, because the Western is America. It's all this diversity, trying to get along and survive together. And I just can't thank you enough for what I see ahead and what I see here in your commitment to bring out these stories that have never been told, these groups that have been marginalized for centuries, and to say, not only are they part of America today, they've always been part of America. And they're so important that I'm just hoping for, 15, 20 seasons.
Hell yeah.
Thank you so much. I'll speak for Seamus. That's basically why he wrote this, is to give voice, to represent diversity. And a lot of us, we're grateful for the ability to be in an air-conditioned building on a June day in Texas. We're grateful to have clothes to wear and to have food to eat. A lot of us haven't really realized how much, or haven't really, so one of the things Seamus said is it's a real picture of the West if you look deeper. A lot of the history books kind of truncate what's going on and don't talk about how it was largely Chinese laborers who built the railroad system that was used for decades and is still used today. How there were a lot of native sacrifices and ways that they would teach to horse ride. Like there are things that we all used along the way, and I think we've too often, just because we get on our own habits, forget, like, oh my God, like we all came from people who were working really hard under really difficult circumstances to get us where we are today. And so that's an extremely important part. That's it.
And to add on to that, that adversity you see isn't just in front of the camera, it's behind the camera as well. The crew and even the writer's room, they're in there. These people that can represent these different, cultures and backgrounds are the ones that are helping to make this show. So it's really cool to see that happening, and that, again, they have the integrity to make sure that they're filling the writer's room with these type of people. And I love that. It makes me more excited to be a part of this, and just, makes us want to work harder.
Yeah, amazing. I think that is, for better or worse, the perfect note to wrap up on, because that is the whole point of the show, is giving voice to a lot of those who have kind of become voiceless and finding out about them. So we're gonna wrap this up because we're being asked to. So I'll just ask. I'll ask one last time if our amazing cast has anything to say, if they would like to, before we get out of here.
Just a big thank you to you and the team, and to everyone here today, and to ATX for having us and letting us, tell this story.
Thank you.
Can't say it better than that.
I just love, I have that favorite quote, like, the strength of the wolf is the pack, and the strength of the pack is the wolf. And I think of that about this town and human nature and humanity, so,
Thank you, Maddie.
We all do it together,
Yeah.
I can't follow these two. Get out of here. No, thank you guys for watching. I'm so happy you guys enjoyed it. And yeah, keep watching.
Thank you all so very much.